Imagine, just for a moment, what it would actually feel like to possess the consciousness of a literal, godlike being.
Oh, that is a massive thought experiment right out of the gate.
Right. But I don't mean that in a vague, abstract sense of just like waving your hand and having infinite power. I mean, if you were to sit down and sketch out the exact psychological architecture of that kind of mind, what would the blueprint actually look like?
Wow. Yeah.
Like, how does a mind operating on a supreme cosmic level get through a Tuesday? What does it actually want?
Well, trying to conceptualize a perfectly divine psychology requires a completely different framework than the one we are used to, honestly.
Yeah,
I
totally.
mean, we spend our entire lives looking at consciousness through this incredibly messy, flawed, anxious lens of being human.
Oh, absolutely. The anxiety is real.
Right. So a mind free of all those human constraints would operate on just a totally alien set of parameters.
And that is exactly what we are getting into today. We are exploring a specific document that claims to offer that exact blueprint. We're taking a deep dive into a text from October 25, 2012.
Very specific date.
Yeah, it was written by Zufeng, and it is titled A Concise Outline of Supercelestial Being Consciousness.
It's a fascinating piece of writing.
It really is.
Mm.
And to be clear, our mission today is just looking at this purely as an intellectual thought experiment. We are impartially mapping out a deeply fascinating psychological architecture of a specific belief system.
Right. We aren't here to validate or debunk anything.
Exactly. We are just the tour guides. Because this text, it doesn't deal in vague metaphors. It lays out a definitive four-pillar framework of what actually constitutes a, quote, supercelestial being.
And surprisingly, it includes a highly specific roadmap for how a human could supposedly attain that exact state.
Yeah, the roadmap part is wild. We will definitely get to that. But first, the brevity of the source material is striking, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
Especially given how philosophically dense it is. In just a handful of translated paragraphs, we get a complete anatomical breakdown of a divine mind.
Just boom. Here is how a god thinks.
Exactly. It doesn't waste a single word justifying itself, It just builds the structure.
So where do we start with this structure?
Well, to understand this supercelestial being, we first have to locate exactly where they sit in the cosmic hierarchy, which leads directly to the first core element of their consciousness.
Their relationship to what the text calls the greatest creator.
Yes, the text is incredibly specific about this positioning.
I actually have the quote right here. I pulled it from the translation. It says, "A supercelestial being stands but one step away from the greatest creator, and their essence is fundamentally one and the same."
That is such a crucial line.
It goes on to clarify that the consciousness of this being is, in its essence, the consciousness of the greatest creator itself.
What's fascinating here is that phrase, one step away. It is doing a massive amount of philosophical heavy lifting in this text.
Oh, for sure. How so, though?
Well, it establishes a psychological architecture where this being possesses near supreme authority, right? But structurally, there is an explicit acknowledgement of a central ultimate source.
So they aren't just rogue gods running around.
Exactly. It deliberately avoids painting a picture of complete, isolated megalomania. The text notes their consciousness is mainly the creator's consciousness.
Meaning there is an inherent, unbroken alignment there.
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because that dynamic, it really makes me think of the relationship between the ocean and a single massive wave.
Oh, I like that. The ocean and a wave.
Yeah, like if you look at a towering wave, it obviously isn't the entirety of the ocean, right? It doesn't
you got
span the whole globe.
Right, it's localized.
But it is made of the exact same water, the exact same salt, and it moves with the exact same underlying hydraulic force as the ocean itself.
That is a great way to visualize it.
You can't separate the wave's fundamental nature from the ocean's fundamental nature. The wave doesn't suddenly decide to be made of fire, It behaves as the ocean behaves.
And expanding on that ocean analogy, think about what it feels like to actually be that wave.
Smooth sailing.
Well, there is no existential dread, for one.
Ah, true.
There is no questioning of purpose or agonizing over whether you are moving in the right direction. You are perfectly aligned with your source, moving with absolute, frictionless certainty.
While still maintaining your distinct localized form as a supercelestial being.
Exactly. You are the way, but you know you are the ocean.
But sharing the creator's essence creates a massive psychological vacuum, doesn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, if you have all that power, but no physical needs, no hunger, no survival instinct driving you, what do you actually do with your time?
Right.
If you are the wave, how do you crash?
That is the big question, and the text answers this by outlining their specific domain, which
Mhm.
is the second pillar of this consciousness, creation.
Creation. Okay.
And it isn't just a vague, omnipresent sense of creation. The text actively grounds this infinite power by assigning them a very specific territory.
Right. These beings reside on their own personal, quote, celestial island.
Yes, a celestial island. On this localized island, they have the absolute authority to bring all things into being. Or, and this is key, dissolve them completely at will.
Mirroring the greatest creator.
Exactly.
The details here get wonderfully precise, actually. I highlighted this heavily in my notes. The text specifies that they possess exactly 64 supernatural abilities.
64.
Yeah, not 63, not infinite. They don't just have generic magic. They have a quantified toolkit of exactly 64 powers to freely create and uncreate their reality.
Grounding a vast, infinite concept into a specific number like 64 is such a fascinating choice by the author.
It really makes it tangible.
It does. It frames this ultimate state not as an incomprehensible blur of light, but as a mastery of a specific set of tools.
Like a master carpenter with a really good toolbox.
Exactly. The core mechanism here is absolute dominion over their local reality.
You know, when I was trying to wrap my human brain around this, the only modern equivalent I could think of is playing a ridiculously complex open-world video game.
Oh, like a sandbox game.
Yeah, but suddenly you are granted admin privileges, or you toggle your character into creative mode.
Oh, yes. I know exactly what you mean.
Suddenly, all the punishing mechanics of reality, like survival, resource gathering, gravity, time, they are just turned off.
The rules no longer apply to you.
Right. You want a massive crystalline mountain over there. Boom. You spawn a mountain. You don't like the mountain anymore. You delete it.
You aren't fighting against the environment. You are dictating it. With zero friction.
Zero friction.
That concept of zero friction is the perfect lens for the text's emphasis on their ability to not just create, but to uncreate.
Oh, that is an interesting point.
In human psychology, creation is fundamentally paired with deep attachment.
Oh, absolutely.
We build a house, we paint a canvas, we start a business, and we desperately want to preserve it forever.
We hold on so tight.
Right, and if our creation gets destroyed, we experience profound trauma. But this blueprint of divine consciousness features total detachment.
Because they can just make it again.
Yes. The ability to dissolve all things at will implies a total lack of burden. Their personal universe is entirely malleable, meaning they are never trapped by the things they build.
Okay, but if you are completely untethered from the burden of maintaining your creations, and you can build or dissolve anything with a thought using your 64 tools, I mean, what motivates you to do anything at all?
It is the ultimate question of motivation.
Right. The text provides an answer that I genuinely had to read twice.
I am not surprised.
The third and fourth pillars of a super celestial being's consciousness are entertainment and play.
It represents a staggering philosophical pivot, honestly.
It really does.
The text states incredibly directly, quote, "The purpose of creation is entertainment."
Let's break down how the text defines these two pillars, because it splits them into distinct experiences.
Right, they aren't the same thing.
No. Entertainment is described as an inward, personal joy. A super celestial being uses their abilities to create according to their own solitary will and desires.
Making things for the fun of it?
Exactly. And then they joyfully delight in what they've made, abiding in, quote, supreme bliss.
That's the internal side.
Right. Now, play, on the other hand, is entirely social.
This is where it gets really interesting.
The text says, these beings actively invite other super celestial beings to their celestial islands, or they travel to the islands of others.
To do what?
To engage in endless displays of supernatural wonders. It literally calls it divine play.
It paints a vivid, highly social picture of inter-island travel, socializing, and essentially putting on spectacular exhibitions of these 64 supernatural abilities.
Showing off for an audience of equally powerful peers. Okay. Here is where I have to admit some massive confusion, or at least pushback on the implications here. So what does this all mean?
It's a lot to take in.
We are talking about the ultimate divine existence, beings who share the literal essence of the greatest creator. And their entire existence is essentially throwing epic cosmic block parties to show off magic tricks to each other.
That is essentially what the text is describing, yes.
Is there absolutely no higher duty mention? No grand cosmic burden they carry, no oversight of suffering universes or karmic scales they have to balance? It is just eternal entertainment.
The contrast with traditional spiritual frameworks is exactly what makes this text so remarkable.
It's a huge departure.
Think about how most belief systems frame spiritual ascendance. It is almost exclusively associated with heavy, solemn duty.
Oh, for sure. You achieve enlightenment so you can stay behind and guide others who are suffering.
Right. Or you transcend into a static, emotionless void of absolute nothingness. Or you take on the terrifying mantle of judging the cosmos.
Very heavy stuff.
This text firmly and cheerfully rejects all of that. It frames the ultimate state of consciousness as an absolute, joyful, burden-free existence.
It essentially argues that suffering and heavy solemnity are symptoms of lower, flawed consciousness, not markers of holiness.
Exactly the point. Why wouldn't a perfectly aligned, omnipotent being simply enjoy the act of existing?
That does make sense when you put it like that.
In this blueprint, the highest possible frequency of consciousness isn't stoicism. It is pure, unadulterated play.
Supreme bliss isn't just sitting perfectly still in a quiet room for a billion years. It is actively enjoying the things you create and sharing that joy with others who are vibrating on your exact wavelength.
Which sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
I have to admit, it sounds like an incredible endgame. But that brings up a massive paradox that the text explicitly addresses.
Yes, the paradox.
If you are a regular, flawed, stressed-out human being listening to this deep dive right now, how do you actually get your mind to a state of endless, blissful play on a celestial island?
The text leans right into that tension with a beautiful philosophical statement.
Let's hear it.
It reads, "The simplest is the most profound. The most profound is the simplest."
Oh, I love that.
It acknowledges that while the mind of a supercelestial being is incredibly simple in its essence, just existing, creating, and playing without friction, the actual path for a human to shed their complexity and reach that simplicity is extraordinarily intricate.
It is the ultimate cosmic irony, isn't it?
Very much so.
Being a god is the easiest thing in the universe, but getting the promotion is the hardest work imaginable.
But the author doesn't just leave us with a paradox.
Thankfully.
The text provides a highly specific four-step methodology, a roadmap to fundamentally refine human consciousness, so it eventually matches that divine blueprint.
The methodology answers the specific question posed in the text. How can one become a super celestial being?
Right, and the answer is refining the consciousness across four highly deliberate dimensions, making it orderly, simple, lucid, and pure.
4 steps.
And what's crucial is that it ties each of these psychological states to specific practices within the ideological framework of Lifechanyuan.
Okay, let's map out how the text correlates these steps. Step 1, make the consciousness orderly. The text says this is achieved by adhering to the values of Lifechanyuan.
Right, establishing a baseline order.
Then step 2, make it simple. This is achieved by living in what it calls the second home.
Step 3 is where it gets really unique.
Yeah, step 3, make it lucid. Interestingly, this is achieved through games and entertainment within that second home.
Games as a spiritual tool.
Exactly. And finally, step 4, make it pure. This requires deep spiritual practice and cultivation to create a perfect inner spiritual garden.
It outlines a very intentional, multi-layered filtering process. Based on the context of the document, Lifechanyuan and the second home represent a specific communal and ideological lifestyle.
Designed specifically to act as this filter.
Yes, taking a chaotic human mind and passing it through these progressive stages of refinement.
It perfectly mirrors a complex water filtration system to me.
Oh, let's hear this analogy.
Okay, so if you take a bucket of murky, chaotic, muddy water directly from a river, which basically represents the human mind on any given Tuesday.
Sad but true.
You can't just stare at it and wish it to be clean. You have to run it through an intricate physical process. First, you pour it through a thick layer of gravel.
To catch the big stuff.
Exactly. The gravel catches the massive chunks of debris, the big existential panics, the major societal stressors. The text suggests that adopting orderly values acts as that gravel, catching the biggest chunks of mental chaos.
Following that analogy to step 2, the water then drips through a layer of fine sand, removing the smaller grit.
Right.
That is making the mind simple through the lifestyle of the second home. It strips away the daily, grinding complexities of worldly ambition and material hoarding.
Then the water passes through a specialized fabric to make it lucid. which the text fascinatingly ties to playing games and having entertainment.
Think about why the text explicitly connects lucidity to games. When a human actively plays a game, they naturally enter a state of flow.
You really do. You lose track of time.
They aren't worrying about their past regrets or agonizing over their future obligations. Their mind becomes entirely focused, present, and transparent.
And that unbroken presence is the exact psychological definition of being lucid. The game forces the mind to drop its baggage.
Yes.
And finally, that water drips through dense, activated charcoal to make it perfectly pure, achieved through the hard work of deep, solitary spiritual cultivation.
The system required to filter the water is extraordinarily intricate and requires immense effort.
But the end result is a glass of water that is fundamentally profound in its absolute perfect simplicity.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, if we look closely at this four-step roadmap, an incredibly elegant symmetry emerges in the text.
A symmetry between the steps and the goal.
Yes. The practices prescribed for humans on Earth intentionally mirror the ultimate cosmic goal.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Look specifically at step 3, making consciousness lucid through earthly games and entertainment in the second home. The text is literally preparing the human mind for the ultimate state of a super-celestial being, which, as we established earlier, is entirely centered around divine entertainment and play on a cosmic scale.
The earthly play is basically a psychological training ground for the divine play.
Precisely. You are practicing the exact emotional state you intend to inhabit for eternity.
You are building the muscle memory for supreme bliss.
That is a great way to put it. The text concludes with a firm promise regarding this exact process.
What's the promise?
It states that by holding fast to the values, embracing the simplicity of the second home, and meticulously following this guide's roadmap, followers, which it refers to as Chanyuan celestials, are step-by-step drawing ever closer to that super-celestial state.
And what happens when they reach it?
It promises that in time, they shall completely refine their consciousness and enter the celestial islands continent of the Elysium world.
The Celestial Islands continent of the Elysium world. That is an undeniably vivid destination.
It truly is.
So, to summarize the fascinating architectural blueprint we have unpacked today, we have mapped out the 4 pillars of a super-celestial being.
Right.
They exist in perfect alignment, sharing the essence of the greatest creator. They possess absolute dominion over their personal reality, wielding exactly 64 supernatural abilities to create and uncreate without friction.
Total creative mode.
And crucially, their entire eternal existence revolves around inward entertainment and outward social play. And the only way a human mind can reach that ultimate state is to walk an extraordinarily intricate roadmap, filtering their mind until it becomes deeply orderly, simple, lucid, and perfectly pure.
You know, if you are sitting in traffic right now or taking a walk to clear a stressed-out mind, there is a remarkably grounded takeaway embedded in this cosmic blueprint.
Even for people not trying to build a celestial island.
Absolutely. We live in a modern reality entirely defined by information overload, perpetual anxiety, and inescapable complexity.
We really do. It is exhausting.
The core psychological proposition of this text, the assertion that ultimate enlightenment, the very highest possible frequency of a mind, is simply one that is orderly, simple, lucid, and pure. It is a deeply appealing antidote.
It suggests that aggressively shedding complexity rather than constantly hoarding more of it is the true mark of an elevated mind.
The highest state isn't knowing a million things and stressing over all of them. It is experiencing a few things perfectly and joyfully.
Which leaves me with a final thought I want you to mull over today as you jump back into your complex human life.
Think back to that architectural blueprint.
Yeah. If you were to suddenly unlock your own personal celestial island right this second, if you suddenly had those 64 supernatural abilities and the power to turn off all the limitations of reality and just enter creative mode,
What would you do?
right, what is the very first thing you would create? Not for survival, not to impress society, not out of duty, but purely for your own cosmic entertainment.
It is quite the question.
We will leave you to think about the geography of your island. Until next time, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.